Welcome to Loving Me Before I Love You with Tammy Nicole, the podcast dedicated to you loving and putting yourself first. Others have come first in your life for years, and you know it's time for that to change. You're about to be empowered to set healthy boundaries, confidently have hard conversations, unapologetically put yourself first, and live the peaceful life you deserve. Remember, self-love is essential, and loving yourself sets the stage for every other love in your life. So get ready to embrace self-love like never before with your host, Coach Tammy Nicole.
Hi, welcome to Transformation Tuesday over at Loving Me Before I Love You. This is your host, Coach Tammy Nicole. I am so excited about this week, guys. You guys know we have always had the opportunity to talk about how do we keep ourselves rejuvenated, etc. But we rarely talk about what it's like to be overwhelmed and burnt out as an entrepreneur, as a 9-to-5 worker, as a mom, as a dad, as just an adult. We don't talk about what it's like to be overwhelmed and burnt out, and what do we do to get past it, to get through it? Do we recognize our burnouts, or do we just go with the flow, roll with the punches? So today's episode, we are talking about burnout and rejuvenation and how do we handle being overwhelmed. I do have a guest with me today. Her name is Ashley, and I am going to let her introduce herself to you guys, but I'm excited to have her with us. She's going to give us her story and some tools and tips. Welcome to the show, Ashley.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you for letting me have this opportunity today.
I'm excited. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Can't complain. I won't say I'm overwhelmed. That's what I won't say. I can't complain. You know, this year has, I feel like, moved really quickly. We're moving really fast through it, but we're talking about burnout and being overwhelmed. Can you tell me a little bit about, like, what do you see burnout to be?
So, of course, burnout varies from person to person, but a lot of things that you will see when a person is completely burnt out is loss of interest. Nothing really makes them happy anymore. Nothing really brings them joy. The things that they used to do, they no longer want to do. Mm-hmm. Also, you may see it may evolve in lack of sleep. Also, so they might have restless nights. They may have a problem with going to sleep, staying asleep, or that constant tossing and turning. So those are some of the two of the major symptoms of what burnout looks like. But it can manage, it can evolve in different ways. So somebody may have reduced productivity, difficulty concentrating. You may also have physical ailments. It may also manifest in the body, right? You may be like, oh, I'm getting these pains that I never had before. It's like a headache, frequent headaches or frequent migraines. You may have reduced productivity. And so those are some of the main things when you recognize burnout. So pretty much that exhaustion piece, and not just physical exhaustion, but it can also be emotional exhaustion too, right?
I'll talk about that.
Yeah. So a lot of times we feel like we know our bodies feel exhausted, right? But do we often pinpoint when we feel emotionally exhausted? So when we get to that point where we can verbalize and then pinpoint like our emotions, I think at that point, that's when that you can maybe take a step back and realize that I may be at a place of burnout.
Okay. When that emotional exhaustion, I don't want to say it's taboo, but I will say it's something that's rarely discussed, right? We're just learning how to become emotional intelligent and emotional mature. So for a person who lacks the skill set of tapping into their emotions or even understanding what emotion they're actually feeling to say, I'm burnt out or overwhelmed, what are the signs that they're emotionally burnt out?
Constant fatigue, a sense of dread, a sense of anxiety about tasks that you know how to do and tasks that you may be comfortable with. You also may be feeling really irritated, or you also may be feeling that word, overwhelmed. Difficulty finding gratitude and finding joy. You may have numbness or detachment from like work, relationship, goals. And sometimes that can manifest into anxiety. It can manifest as into depression. It can be hopelessness. It can manifest in very different signs and symptoms. And I like the point that you made about a lot of times we don't talk about emotional maturity. So I think being able to realize where you are on your emotional journey and being able to pinpoint not even just emotional exhaustion, but that, that mental and emotional exhaustion, but also physical, behavioral. All of those things can play a part in having exhaustion emotionally. And like I said, you will kind of feel that in your body as well, too.
Yeah. I think when we talk emotion, a lot of times we are so limited to what I call small words.
Yeah.
And I say small words when someone says, how do you feel? The first thing that come to most people's mind, if they don't say the word, I'm fine, they're saying, oh, I'm happy, or I'm tired, or, I'm sad. They don't go deep into other feelings like irritation, withdrawn. Like they don't tap into the array of emotions. I think a lot of that stems from us not really talking about how we feel. Mm-hmm. I know they say like we as women are emotional beings and we are always emotional, but they still, even in that realm, limit us to the few emotion of anger, frustration, happy, sad, tired. You don't get exhaustion. You don't get being elated or joyful. It's like you stick to these 5 set of emotions, and that's like all you're allowed to feel. Yeah. But when other feelings come into play, it's like, how do I identify that?
I think that one of the things that helped me really was in therapy. I was given the feelings or emotional wheel, and I was able to pinpoint. I had language for other things at that point, because a lot of times we, like you said, our language is limited. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm angry.
Yeah.
But you may not be angry. You may have discontent. You may be discontent. You may be disappointed, and that can be a form that can manifest the anger. So I think that feelings wheel, you can Google that. It is something that you can literally look at, and it'll change your language around what that looks like. Because I didn't have that myself until I got into therapy. I needed that tool or that skill to be able to pinpoint, that I may be optimistic. I may, be amused versus I'm just happy, or I'm just, so I had to figure out what that looked like for me. And I think that tool really helps a lot to figure out what my emotions really are, because you can't sit in your emotions and work through your emotions until you figure out what they are.
Absolutely.
What exactly they are.
Absolutely. And I think in figuring it out, or like you said, giving it language, giving it actual words that mean something, because it's like sometimes, when you're talking and you be like, I know what it is, I just can't put my finger on it. Mm-hmm. I know what it is, I just can't, verbalize it. To me, that's a lack of vocabulary. It's a lack of understanding. It's a lack of exposure to what things really could be or what they are in general. Being discontent, being, as you mentioned, all of the different possible options. It's like, oh, that's what that is. Mm-hmm. Some of us will be saying, what does that even mean? It's just like I'm hearing words that could resonate with me, could be the actual word I need to describe how I feel. Mm-hmm. But because we haven't had that level of exposure, we just tend to call it one thing and the most of the time calling it what it's not. I'm just mad. Mad about what? Right. And then they start talking and it's like, wait a minute, you sound like you're disappointed in the fact that you didn't get to do blah, blah, blah versus being mad about it. Yeah. And then it's like you start talking about it and it's like, okay, maybe that is true. Mm-hmm. I am, geared more towards this than that. Is there a societal expectation when it comes to like having it all to the point that we burn ourselves out?
Absolutely. Especially if you are a person of color, we've been taught from birth that weakness is no weakness. We got to be strong and we got to be this. So you always have a pressure of, I got to be better than, I got to make sure that I do X, Y, and Z in order to get here or to make sure that I stay here. So that's pressure. The society put pressure on us that we don't even need to have, right? So walking into that, I already got to be better. So that's already pressure. So then you go into, I got to do X, Y, and Z to get here, even more pressure. So now you can keep stacking yourself with all this pressure. And so you're going to get to a place of being overwhelmed and burnt out because you're operating in spaces that you didn't even have to take up, that you didn't even have to take on because now you're trying to be in roles or situations that you didn't have to do when you could have just been who you are authentically.
Okay. So I was about to say that sounds like a space of self-love or lack thereof. Because, we talk self-love here. And I always say that you love yourself when you're able to understand your capacity and occupy space based upon the space you fill up, like based upon you, right? And a lot of times when we go into workspaces, we're going for the money. And when we don't know who the heck we are, a lot of times we'll do things just for the money, but it won't be for our own fulfillment.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that boils down to what you said before, the exposure. If you don't have exposure, or if you have a limited worldview, you don't even understand what passion and purpose is. All you understand is the hustle mindset. All you understand is I got to provide. But what does that look like? Does that mean as generations before that we work 20 or 30 years at a place that we don't like? We hate going in it. We hate going to it every day. We dragging ourselves out of bed. We take anything. The lowest paid people on the roster. So what does that look like? And I don't know if we've had a lot of examples to see what does that look like, right? We are now becoming a generation where we are more, I'm not doing this. But that still takes time. That takes years. That takes that comfortability. That takes that emotional maturity. That takes that self-love to get to a point of I'm going to respect myself, to love myself enough to be able to say, I deserve to be happy in everyday life, right? I deserve to wake up and enjoy my job. I deserve to not go to a place just for money. So like, how do we get to a place that we can really understand what passion and purpose look like? So we don't be overwhelmed, and so we don't be burnt out, right? Because
Yeah.
you're getting up because you love it, right?
Yeah.
And you're not doing it for a means of I got to put food on the table.
Yeah. Oh, when you think about it from that perspective, because I even look at like today's generation, how everybody's doing content. It's like content, content, content. I'm a content creator. I'm an influencer. Like that's everybody's job title. And they're making a whole lot of money with it. But there are a lot of times where I'm watching these videos and I'm saying they're not happy. Like if you just like look through the screen and you can kind of like see the weight that they've created. It's like, yes, I've created a little bit of freedom in reference to I don't go clock nobody's clock. And, I get up and do what I want to do. But to me, just to me, as free as it is, it has the heaviest amount of pressure because you now have to create something out of nothing every day.
I mean, it's also, you always have to perform too. You always got to be on. You always gotta, I feel like it takes away from living because you can't even enjoy a trip because you got to get content, or I got to record my kids taking their first step.
Girl.
And those are, have been precious moments. Kept near and dear to our heart, or only show close friends and family. But now the world can see anything and everything. So that's also one of those things about to prevent burnout is what does that work-life balance look like? And I don't think that's something that we often talk about either. Am I going to do content on every trip, or whatever the situation to be? It could be work. Am I taking my laptop with me when I go out of town?
Girl,
so
let me tell you. So it's just real talk. So I do this podcast. I have my own other stuff. I do work a 9 to 5. And when we go out of town, I made it my business. My kids go on vacation once a quarter. I don't care. We going 4 times a year. Like that's what we doing. And so I try not to bring work to the trip. But lately or recently, I've noticed, I'm packing that laptop every time we go. But it's not because, I'm creating content, FYI. That's not the case. But I am doing some level of work. I'm recording a podcast because I pre-record some of the shows. So it's like, I got to record this show so it can release on Tuesday. These episodes got to release every week. There is no day off. You know what I mean? And so you find when you have so much on your plate that you tend to see how can I navigate and maneuver and just do. Now, I always feel like I don't have a lot to do because I'm like, I work every day except Saturday and Sunday. And I'm done by 8 o'clock at night. Like I'm at 8 o'clock at night, I'm done. That's a decent time to be done with work. But if I go on a trip, you think this is for relaxation, enjoy, spend quality time with your family or your friends, whoever the heck you with. But what you got your laptop for? Oh, I don't know. So, and I will kid you not. Even if I don't have nothing scheduled to do, it's like, but if I don't have it, something's going to pop up and I'm going to need to do it. And I'm going to need, it's always that thing. When you are an entrepreneur, you always feel like you always have to be on. It's like you can never just take a whole step away or something's going to burn down.
So I'm a big component on self-care. And I'm a big component on if you die tomorrow, your job will be posted.
Oh, absolutely.
So I have really set boundaries around what work-life balance look like. Now, I probably do need to set it on what time I stop working, but I definitely no type of gadget with me on vacation. I only work Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So outside of those times, if I reply to somebody, I'm sending you the link. You can talk to the website at that point. So you got to really set those boundaries. And this is one of the things I realized. If you don't set the standard, why would you expect somebody else to respect you, your business, and your time? They won't. So you have to respect yourself, your business, and your time, and make sure that you let the groundwork work. And because you're going to get frustrated after a while, you're going to get overwhelmed because now Felicia is texting you at 12 a.m., but you just texted her last week at 12 a.m. So now it's going to be like, well, I just texted you last week at 12 and you was okay with it. So now why do you got a problem with me texting you now at 12 a.m.?
Oh, yeah, I don't break them kind of boundaries.
So you got to definitely set those boundaries around what that business, what you look like and what you want to do. Because I want to say I don't even pack a laptop, and I hate pulling out my bag and everything.
At the airport?
I hate doing it. So I was like, I don't even want to go through all of that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I said I'm going to do better. Because the funny thing is that I teach this to my clients all the time when it's like knowing who you are, where you stand, and abide by it. You can have it all, but you got to create the space to do so. And in creating that space, that simply means knowing your limits, knowing what you will and will not do, and sticking to it for yourself. And then others will follow suit.
So something that you said, I want people to realize that we have to be intentional about moments. That's all you have is time, right? And so if you have children, you don't want them to remember when they get older, all mommy or daddy did was work or be on a computer or be on their phone. They never had time for me. We might think that we are a great parent or whatever it may be, but you're going to have one kid that's probably going to be like, well, you didn't do this or you didn't do that. And they remember those things. They don't remember that you got them all the Jordans. They don't remember. They remember if you were present and that you showed up for them. So that's why I always put that in the perspective. Like, perspective is everything, because your perspective is one thing, but somebody else's perspective is something totally different. And that's their reality.
Yeah.
So, you may think I only work sometime, but somebody else may be like, dang, she always working. Yeah. So like looking at what that looks like from somebody else's lens and perspective.
Yeah. And then deciding which lens's perspective matter to you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because we are really gearing towards not being people pleasers. There is a thing of being courteous and considerate for others, but I'm not here to live your life. I'm here to live mine. So it's not doing what you want me to do based upon how you would make a decision, but doing what I want to do based upon how I make a decision. And when we talk about being burnt out and overwhelmed, I think you mentioned about being living in your purpose and in your passions is really the key. Because if I'm doing it from my heart, if I'm doing it out of my purpose, then burnout really shouldn't be an option. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because I'm going to put things into parameters and perspective that align with what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yep. And it's easily, I know people say, I don't know what my passion or I don't know what my purpose is. But I think it's easy to identify once you realize what brings you joy. So I can give you a task right now, Tammy, and say, hey, can you do X, Y, and Z? And you're like, yeah, I can do it. But it can be something else that I can tell you to do. And then you'll be like, oh my God, yes, I can't wait to do it. Your response is totally different by when somebody asks you to do something versus do something that you just don't, you know how to do it. You can do it. You can get it done, right? But versus something that you love, your response is going to be totally different.
I agree. Figuring out your purpose in life. I used to say, what is that one thing you'll do that if nobody paid you to do it, you'll still be excited to do it? Mm-hmm. Like, there's no payment coming from it. It's just, hey, this is what I need you to do. The other thing I would say is, what is that one thing that you'll jump out of bed for? Nobody has to set the alarm for you. You're going to be on time. You're going to be enthused. and you're going to do it with the best of your ability. Then people say, those are all tangible things. And so then the other thing I started to say is, what is the thing that you do naturally and you do it well?
Yep.
So it's not necessarily that you maybe even always think that you would like just love doing, love, but it could also be that thing that's like, you know what, I'm just really good at this. I never really pay attention to it. I kind of do it with my eyes closed.
Right.
And if I was to think about, do I enjoy it? I might say yes. Mm-hmm. Those are the signs and symptoms of identifying your purpose, because our purpose is embedded within us. It's not something you go seeking out to like create.
Right.
It's really embedded within you. So if you are really seeking to understand or know what your purpose in life is, and a lot of us can have more than one, it could be something super general. Like, my purpose is to help people, heal from their traumas. But I can do that in so many different ways. If I figured out that that's my purpose, but then I'm like, well, how am I supposed to execute it? Then it may be, what is it that I do well? Could it be that I'm an artist and I teach them how to draw and release their trauma through paintings? Very well could be what it is. But could it just simply be that I do well with talking to them, that I, do well with listening and then turning around and letting them see where they really stand in the situation? By all means, it could be. But I just think that we have to dive into who we are in order to find what we're supposed to be doing.
Yes, but I also think that that happens from that exposure that we were talking about earlier, or that worldview. Because a lot of times you think that you're supposed to do this, or it may look like this. But if you have that exposure or opportunities that you may not have had before, you may discover, I really enjoy this. So I think those are needed too. Mentorship is really needed for us to get those additional opportunities that we may not, that we may have not had in our worldview or in front of us.
That's true.
Hey, hope you're feeling the love in today's episode. We'll pick back up where we left off in a moment. First, we're excited to share that Tammy has a collection of self-love t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, and journals for you to express how much you love yourself to the world. From comfy hoodies to motivational mugs, there's something for everyone. While you're listening to today's show, feel free to browse the full collection at IamTammyNicole.com. Thank you, and without further ado, let's get back into today's show.
That's true. I do think that we're very limited as a culture, as a people. I know when I have a son who's getting ready to go into his junior year, so we're like starting to do college tours and things of that nature. And he has a best friend. And I was talking to her, like we're talking about, we're going to go to college, blah, 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 blah. I said, my son doesn't have an option to go to school where it's in the state that we live. And she's like, wait, what? I said, oh, no, he got to go somewhere else. I said, because my mama did that. Mm-hmm. It was like, you need to go away. A lot of times we think keeping our kids close or keeping everything in such a close proximity is super important because of the dangers of the world. And there's just so many, but you're limiting them to not being able to see the other opportunities of the world. Like, the world does not consist of the United States. Like, they can go out of the country if they want to, but half of them have never been to every state in the US. Mm-hmm. Like, can we at least get that part? Like, at least be able to be exposed to the other people and the way other people do life outside of the way you do life. So exposure is imperative, but I feel like we, don't think it's a necessity. So we just kind of keep everybody close. We just like, oh, you can go they shine the light on in-state tuition being so much cheaper. So it's like, oh, no. You need to go right over there because it's not going to cost me that much. You can still get that same education. It's like, but you can also apply for some scholarships and go on across that state or across the country and get the same education, but at the same time, better education to me because you're exposed to the other culture.
I definitely think that's one of the reasons I'm a proponent for college. I think that it exposes you to various different things that you would have never been exposed to if you did not go to college. I know we're in a world of trades. I am not against trades. I'm also a fan of trades. I think you need some type of education in this world. But I think that college makes you a more well-rounded person. And that comes from that exposure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like, I will never forget freshman year. I'm from LA. I'm an LA girl, born and raised. Mm-hmm. I came to Atlanta to go to Clark Atlanta University, and it was the most Black people I'd ever seen in my life in one spot. And I'm talking, people were looking at me. I was like, this is a culture shock. And I know that y'all think that this is like weird, but when you grow up in LA, what is super multicultural, super diverse, I mean, my family alone is super diverse. So I'm not like used to everything being black. Mm-hmm. I'm just not. However, well, at that time, let's be clear. Mm-hmm. At that time, at 18 years old, coming to a city where predominantly Blacks are in the vicinity of where I'm living, and I wasn't used to it. I was like, oh, it's too many of y'all. That's what I'm not. I'm not going to lie to you. I said it's too many of y'all. And now, granted, I embrace my culture. I love my people. But at 18 years old, I was saying it was too many of y'all. Okay?
So I knew I only wanted to go to a HBCU because I had only been around Black people. So it was like, okay, I have to go here. So I went to a PWI as well. That was a culture shock.
Yeah. But see, PWIs is where I would have felt right in. I mean, mm-hmm. I don't even know how to really explain it, but it's very different. And I always tell people, just because we have the same skin color or call ourselves African American does not mean there's no culture differences. Culture is not based upon are you Black or white, Asian, Hispanic. Like, that's not the end all be all. Culture comes from customs too. Like, what do you do? Like, how do you, everybody don't have what they call soul food for Thanksgiving every year.
Mm-hmm. I didn't realize that until I was way beyond college. I have a family that has salsa, and it was the best thing I ever had for Thanksgiving that year.
Yes, Mexican food for Thanksgiving. I mean, swap it up. We do seafood time. Like, come on. Like, it is not, that is not what we like. Everybody don't do that. But it's the fact that we mentally think that we're all the same. So it's like you said, we need the exposure. If you're going to prevent yourself from having burnout and all of these things, it's like, hey, what's my passion? How do I get back to it? What's my purpose? So I can stay focused on it and be able to really operate in what I'm called to do. I think if you love it, it's no longer work. Like, and you can chime in on this. Like, is burnout always tied to lack of enjoyment of what you're doing?
No, I don't think so. I think burnout can stem from, I think enjoyment is one big piece, but it can be when things get routine or mundane. or you feel like you're going through the motions. I think those are some things, some ways that burnout can manifest, right? So if you do the same exact thing every day, no change, I think that is also a way that you can be like, I'm not feeling this. I need a change, or I need a shift, and trying to figure out like what that change or shift looks like.
I can see that, but I also see if I'm not enjoying what I'm doing, then I'm getting into that space. But if I'm enjoying what I'm doing, then I'm always pivoting. I'm always adding. I'm always, making it something new, so that I don't get into a space of routine and it's 8:00. I wake up and I go to bed. You know what I mean? Like just constant on repeat, because I enjoy what I do. I'm looking forward to doing it and enjoying the changes as it grows.
Okay, well, I'm gonna put a twist to it. So we often talk about, it's because you don't love it or you don't enjoy it. But what about you? What about burnout may come if you love it too much or you care too much about something? So now you have an overcommitment and you're over passionate about something. So now you're taking these things home with you from work, or it could come from your poor boundaries. You don't set those standards in place. So now boundaries are blurred. So now you don't know how to say no to nobody, right? And it also can come from this word that we think that exists, but it really don't. But perfectionism, right? We might be like, we got to have this, this, and that. And when we don't get this and this and that, or for it to look like this, we may be in that constant state of, I got to have these high standards, which can lead to kind of chronic stress. Mm-hmm. And that can eventually turn into burnout. So lack of balance, all of that can be ways that you can eventually become burnout.
I agree with that side. I agree with that side wholeheartedly. Overextension. Yes. When we overextend ourselves, and that perfectionism word is very interesting. And I say it's interesting because like when we have to have everything to a T, for me, it's a lack of trust in your ability. Mm-hmm. We tend to think it has to be perfect in order for it to be right, but we always say done is better than perfect, right? So when you are doing something, you're like, oh, but it's got to be perfect. It's not this, it's not that. And you're overdoing, you don't trust you. You don't trust in whatever you're doing. And I don't care. I mean, because it's a plethora of things that you could be doing, but you don't trust you enough to say, I put my best into it and it's going to be what it's going to be. Mm-hmm. Yeah, perfection. Ooh, girl. And a lot of us have it, but I think it's more about acceptance, wanting validation. Like I will go down a whole rabbit hole on wanting something to be just right. Mm-hmm. And it's lack of acceptance of ourselves. It's mm-hmm. always trying to overly please other people, versus simply doing your best for what you're doing and moving on. Mm-hmm. Accepting it for what it is, validate yourself, give yourself, the credit that you need in order to say job well done and keep it pushing.
Yeah. I think that comes from that self-love aspect, to be able to say that, to take that time sometime to be like, girl, you the shit. Like, I don't know if I can cuss on here.
You're fine.
But so you to be able to look at yourself in the mirror, to be able to say, girl, you did that. Like, but we don't often we're not that kind to ourselves sometimes, right? So also we're not kind to ourselves, and we don't accept compliments from other people. So how do we figure out, how do we even know we're good or we're doing our best if we don't even tell ourselves that, right? So being mindful enough to be able to say, yeah, you did real good on that. Yeah, you nailed that. You killed that, whatever you want to say. I think that is a place of keeping yourself in a state of that balance, of being able to say, yeah, I did my best on that. And now I can move on to the next thing or the next project.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What tips would you give to someone who is saying, I want you to give 2 sets of tips, okay? I want the first set of tips to be about how to recognize that burnout is on the horizon. And the second set of tips is, once you recognize that it is on the horizon, what do I do about it?
Okay, so can I share a personal story?
Oh, girl, yeah.
Okay. So this is probably 2017. I was at a place in my life where I was completely burnt out. Like, I was showing up at work, but I really wasn't doing no work. I was just there existing. I was not enjoying anything. I was just literally going through the motions, right? And I literally just it was one of those, like a light bulb came on. And it was like, are you going to keep doing this? Or are you going to really make a change? And I said, I need to leave the field that I'm in and figure out something else. So I literally, did left everything that I knew and kind of started over. I even started locks at that point. If you know anything about locks, it's a whole different journey about self-love and all of that stuff. So one of the things I had to do is, this no longer serves me. How can I move from this place? Right. And being okay, because a lot of times we get comfortable. So being okay with, I'm not even this person no more. So why am I still trying to be this person? And how do I move from A to B? And I don't know what B looks like. So fear is a tricky thing, right?
Yeah.
So I know A, but B might be super scary. I never done it before. I never tried it. I have no idea what that looks like. So that's a lot of times how we get stuck, because A is comfortable. It looks good. It is good to us sometimes, but we're not all the way happy. But it's a safe space for us. So for me, I had to completely change everything. Now, that might not always work for everybody, but I would say take a look, whether that is through some shadow work, self-discovery work, whether is that through therapy, whether is that through journaling, and really self-reflect and figure out what makes you happy. Who am I without all the titles? So let's erase every title: mom, dad, CEO, business owner. Erase all of those titles. And who am I at the end of the day without any titles?
Mm-hmm.
What brings me joy? And this may not be a quick thing. This may be, some months, a year. This may be something that you need to look at constantly and reflect. So those will be ways that I would say definitely start. Because I think a lot of times notice it physically first, but we typically ignore physical. I don't know what we got an issue with doctors and all of that. I know why. We have reasons to have medical mistrust, but you usually notice that you can't sleep. You usually notice that you got body aches. I notice if I know anything else, I know when my appetite changed, and I know when I can't sleep, because I love them 2 things, sleeping and eating. And so that is how I would say, pay attention to your physical ability, your physical health, your emotional health, your mental health. And if you have any behaviors that you haven't had before, like withdrawals, being to yourself, like you was once the life of the party and now you just want to stay at home, or putting labels on yourself that was not there once before. I used to try to tell myself I'm not a people person. Well, that's a lie. Where did that come from? So figuring out, have things changed? And you can do a quick check-in on yourself too, to say, do I wake up feeling tired or anxious about the day? Do I have activities that I once enjoyed, but now I drain them, that I'm now feel drained, or now I feel like they're pointless? You could say, do I struggle with focusing on tasks? Do I feel detached? You can kind of ask yourself those kind of questions. And if they sound like yes to any of those, I would say at least 3 out of the 5, you probably are in burnout, and it hasn't manifested in, all the ways that it can manifest. So the first thing I'm going to say, make sure you have opportunity to pause, assess the situation, and then you want to figure out what self-care looks like. I know self-care is a big buzzword right now, but it's something that we really need, and it's something that we really need to invest in ourselves, like incorporating regular breaks, mindfulness activities, rest periods. Like, what does that look like? Setting those boundaries, saying no. I always want to tell people that no is an absolute complete sentence. It's no, period. Like, you don't have to explain. You don't have to elaborate. And also seek help, seek support. Get a support team, if it's friends, family, professional help, whatever, to be able to help you through the burnout, because it's really not a good place to be mentally. So making sure that you have that support system as well.
Absolutely. So, of course, I 100% agree with everything that you said. I do think that self-care is a new buzzword. Mm-hmm. I do agree that self-love is the umbrella to the self-care world. Mm-hmm. I always tell people self-love and self-care do not equal the same. Self-care is a product of self-love. Mm-hmm. So when you are talking about self-care, simply caring for yourself, give yourself the same grace you give to others. You may need me time. I don't care if it's 5-10 minutes of the day to just sit and decompress, or sit and create your intention, whichever works for you. But you have to know that you matter. You have to know that you have to pour into you. You can never pour from an empty cup. And I feel like burnout is that exact visual. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jesus. Okay. Burnout visual is you putting a pot of water on the stove, turning it on, walking away, and the water completely evaporates. And the smoke is just like there. It's like, and you come back and there's nothing left. That's burnout, because you didn't ever replenish the water, nor did you turn the stove off. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And some of us have to turn the stove off and stop letting it overboil. Stop letting it, just cook us until there is no us available.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I tell people often that self-care and self-maintenance is two different things. And I think often we get those things mixed up. People say, I want to get my hair done, I want to get my feet done, or I'm going to do this. Like, that's
maintenance,
right? So self-care is like, how eternal, like, how am I going to be better? It's really that soul care. Like, how do I feel on the inside? How am I better? How, basically, like, how am I caring for my body, my soul, my whole body, like my whole being, that holistic approach to me. Like, I'm wrapped up in this flesh, but how do I take care of it? How do I take care of my body, my mind, and my soul? So what does that look like? And that is the point of what self-care is more so soul care, and figuring out like that it is, it's a necessity. And a lot of times I think we think it's a luxury, and it's not. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for spending some time with me, helping the people understand what burnout is and how they can actually bounce back from it and not just stay stuck in it. If they wanted to reach you to get any additional services, how would they need to do that?
I am on all social media platforms at She Selfish LLC, and my website is sheselfish.com. So you can reach me on any platform, my website, and my personal Facebook book is Ashley Ann Browning, and you can reach me there as well.
Awesome. Again, thanks for joining me. It has been a pleasure. Remember, love yourself so much that the love from others is a bonus. Reach out to coaching at IamTammyNicole.com if you would like coaching services. Have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday.
That's a wrap on another episode of Loving Me Before I Love You. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a second to show your support by subscribing and leaving a positive rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Stay connected with Tammy. Make sure you're following her on Instagram and TikTok at Coach Tammy Nicole. If you like to work with Tammy or have any questions you'd like her to answer, please head over to www.IamTammyNicole.com. Until next time, always remember to love yourself so much that the love from others is a bonus.